Hey everybody, Jed here. Our meetings are taking place next week, so if you haven't signed up for one, email me at jed.diesel@gmail.com and we'll get you set up. I did send out an email yesterday, but you might have missed it. But look for that email. You can just reply back to me and we'll set something up. For this meeting, aside from the normal stuff that we're going to cover, what I'd like to do is try to get 3 specific goals that you have. As specific as you can get them, the 3 biggest goals that you have for now until the end of the year. Let's talk about that during the meetings next week. Next, I wanted to cover some information on back pain. I think I talked to 4 different people last month during August who reported having back pain. So I wanted to take a stab at what might be potentially causing this and some things that might help you out with your back pain if you're having back pain. So I see in an office setting, I see the biggest risk factor for back pain is sitting down. Now, why is that the case? Well, let's take a look at something. So I'm sitting here on this Swiss ball. So I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I try to strengthen my core all day by sitting on a Swiss ball at my office desk. That is not the case. I have a chair in there. I do try to avoid sitting as much as possible, and instead I try to stand while I work when I'm doing things like data entry and other things where I can just look back and forth and work on the laptop. Okay? But when you're sitting, this is the problem. This joint angle at your hip, this is called flexion, hip flexion, okay? And there's a muscle inside of here called the hip flexor, right? So the hip flexor bends your hip like this. So when you're sitting in a position like this, that hip flexor gets shortened, okay? So when your hip flexor gets shortened, it gets tight. Now, what you may not know is the hip flexor, aside from attaching to your leg, it also goes back and attaches on your lower spine, your lumbar spine. So when that gets tight, it actually pulls on the lower spine, and it can cause some back pain because the other muscles back there get inflamed, they get irritated, things like that. The other problem that goes along with this is it weakens your glute muscles. So your glute muscles are hip extensors. So your glute muscles pull your leg back like this. That's primarily your glutes. So if your hip flexors are tight, your glutes are going to be weak. This is called, it actually has a terminology, reciprocal inhibition. So when one side of your body is super tight, it shuts down the other side, the opposite side of your body, and makes it weak. Another way that you can see this is for people with bad posture. Generally, over time, they've gotten into this position. Their pectoral muscles get really tight. The muscles on the back, the upper back, pec are tight, upper back is weak, you're pulled forward like this, you're rounded in, bad posture, all right? Now we get neck pain, now we get headaches, things along those lines. When your hip flexors are tight, you get that back pain, you can get different nerve pain from sitting so long. Lots of issues come about from this. I've heard it stated something like sitting is like the new obesity. It's just bad for you. Like it just promotes inactivity. Plus, it can contribute to back pain. It can contribute to this kind of posture. It's just not good. So what I'm going to show you right now is a couple of things that you can do that won't take a ton of time, and it will help to correct this situation if you've got back pain, and especially if it's coming from all the sitting that you're doing. Incidentally, it's not just the sitting at your desk at work, it's also sitting on the couch at home, sitting in your car, if you've got long commutes, all that stuff, airlines, all that stuff contributes. So first thing I'm going to show you is a hip flexor stretch. So you'll put your knee down, you'll put your other foot out, and it's about a 45-degree angle. So not just straight forward, but I've opened up a little bit. This allows for some clearance for the hip bones to move forward. So then you rotate and pop your hip forward, and you'll feel the stretch coming through here. You can actually accentuate that stretch even more by lifting your arm up and extending this way in order to stretch that muscle. It's going to come up through here. It's going to go under your belt line and back in and connect to your spine. So you can do something like this. You hold for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, maybe 3 sets of that. You want to do both sides. I can already feel a stretch there. You can also increase the stretch by firing your glutes. So not just moving your hip forward, but also squeezing the glute muscle, making it fire forward as well. How do you strengthen your glutes? You want to do both of these. I would suggest doing the stretch first in order to loosen the hips, then go into the glute strengthening exercise, and it's called a bridge. So you can lay here like this. What you want to do is you want to draw your ribs closer to your hips. So we come here, and then we bridge. And you should feel a pretty good contraction in your glutes. You can just punch them, hit them with your thumbs. They should be firing. So we can bridge like this and hold, maybe 20 seconds. We can do a series of repetitions. Maybe we do 10, 20 repetitions. Try to get all the way into a lockout position here. Straight line, knees, hips, shoulders. If that doesn't do much for you, you can do a single leg bridge. Put your arms down this time. You still want to get this crunch in order to activate here. Okay? Look up at the ceiling, pick this leg up, bridge up. Bridge up. Other leg, bridge up. Hold it, test it. Fire. That's what you want. Now, those two things right there, they're fairly quick. They're fairly easy. They're not complex. You don't need any equipment. You could do the bridges on a Swiss ball if you wanted to. You don't need them. Okay? Just set up some place where it's not gonna, where the floor is not gonna dig into your spine or your shoulder blades. But here's the thing. If the sitting is the primary cause of the issue, the tight hip flexors, the weak glutes, and the back pain, if you don't reduce the amount of time that you're sitting, then you're always going to have this problem. My best recommendation for you is to, at the very least, rotate back and forth between a seated working position and a standing working position. So if you have a work desk that adjusts so that you can do standing work, that's great. When I had terrible back problems back in 2010, 2011, I was doing a lot of work from home, sitting in a wooden chair with good posture, but my hips were on fire all the time. My back hurt so bad. So I had to make a change. So for a long time, I stood on a fatigue mat, just a small pad similar to this, a little cushion for my feet. I would stand in the kitchen at the counter with a box, just a wooden box. And I worked with my laptop on that box. And within a couple weeks, my back pain went from like a 10, and it was all the time a 10. My hip pain was all the time a 10. And it dropped down to a 2 within 2 weeks. Made a huge difference. Probably one of the best things I ever did for myself was to start working in a standing position. So, you don't have to do that all day long. In fact, when I first started doing that all day long, my feet were killing me, guys. So you could start out with 10 minutes per hour, 20 minutes per hour, something like that. They say, I've heard it said, You're not supposed to sit for longer than 20 minutes if you can avoid it. So at the very least, try to break your day up. Try to stand as much as possible. And I think it's going to do a lot to reduce your back pain, especially if the cause is that reciprocal inhibition from sitting all the time with the tight, shortened hip flexors and the weakened, lengthened, loosey-goosey glute muscles. All right? I hope this helps you out. And remember, in the meetings next week, give me your top 3 goals. That's what we're going to talk about, the top 3 goals. I want to discuss them, the big 3 things you want to accomplish by the end of this calendar year. Thanks, everybody. All the best. See you or talk to you then.